Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. I apologize for that. It doesn't even make sense me even giving you the report in terms of giving an admonition, because if you're watching, clearly you would have known that you can't call me when I'm live, right? So clearly the person who called is someone who is not watching, and so when you call, guys, whenever I'm watching, whenever I'm live, it automatically cuts the feed, and so that's what happened just now. So I apologize for that. I was giving the big numbers to my big data people when we got disconnected. So I'm just going to continue straight, guys. Right. So I was saying that we have 617 confirmed cases of COVID-19 as of today, at the 5 p.m., rather 5 p.m. yesterday, right? We get the information every 24 hours. And so by this evening, we'll have had more information. But as of 5 p.m. yesterday, we are at 617. The two new cases are it's a 35-year-old male from St. James and a 61-year-old female from Kingston and St. Andrew. Both of them arrived in the island, and during that controlled re-entry program flight from Florida. Remember, we had those two flights, one from New York, one from Florida, and so those two kids are from the flight from Florida. Yeah. Um, that of course has brought our imported cases number up to 116. So now there are 116 imported cases of COVID-19 on the island, and we still have 420 persons who recovered, because we had I would have given that information to you yesterday, but because I wasn't on yesterday, I did not give that to you. So we had three, and then now we're up to 420 recoveries. No new recovery reported at 5 p.m. yesterday. That number still stays the same. The other numbers, of course, we have 187 now active cases on the island, and we have 32 persons in the hospital, including two persons who are critically ill. We'll continue to pray for those two, and let the Lord, let His will be done. Of course, we have 356 females and 261 males. Total samples to date 16,492, with 15,829 negatives, and as I said, 617 that are positive. We still have 49 samples pending. Sorry, 46 samples that are pending. Yeah. And we have 1,499 persons who are in home quarantine. That means these persons are geofenced and are wearing bracelets. Yeah. Isolation is now 157, and 7 persons in government quarantine. All the other numbers still stay the same. Contacts of confirmed cases is still 219, 236 Alarica cases, 39 local transmission, and 7 that are under investigation. Yeah, so that's my number for my big data people, guys. Because like I said, I have so much information to give you because I did not get to give you yesterday. So what I'm going to do as a follow up to this is go straight into. I think some of you had heard, and some of you might not have gotten the full understanding of the press release. The Prime Minister had a press release on Friday, and at that press release on Friday, he had given a lot of information in terms of persons who are arriving into the island. Because as you know, today is June 15th, right? And as of today, June 15th, we have both nationals and non-nationals who are entering into the island today, right? Okay, and so let me give you that story, and then I'm going to give you the update, because yesterday, Sunday, actually Saturday, a press release was issued. He did a brief press release yesterday, but that was for something else I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. But just to talk about just the non-nationals and nationals arriving into the island today, let's talk about that first. And so I'll go into that report, which I was supposed to have given you yesterday, and then I go into the updated press release that was issued Saturday. So as of June 15, which would have been today, both nationals and nationals are required to present a travel authorization document in order to travel to Jamaica under the new controlled entry program. Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, made the announcement during his press briefing at the office of the Prime Minister Media Center on Friday, which was June 12th. Outlining how the new protocol will work, Mr. Holness said 2 different portals for entry applications have been set up on the jamcovid19.moh.gov.jm website and on visitjamaica.com. According to the Prime Minister, residents of Jamaica Both nationals and non-nationals who are ordinarily resident in Jamaica should apply to obtain a travel authorization document on the JAM COVID-19 website. That means if you are a person who lives in Jamaica, that's basically what he's saying. That's the website that you're going to use. So that means that you live here, but you went overseas on vacation, for example, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, a day, couple of days, you use that website. That's what he's saying. Okay. This includes, okay, nationals who live here as a result of owning a work permit, marriage, or being dependents of Jamaican nationals, or just living here over an extended period of time, which in the America they would call illegal alien. Yeah. Um, Non-residents, on the other hand, who are visiting Jamaica for tourism or business should apply on visitjamaica.com. The application process is the same, but the information requirements are slightly different. For example, for non-resident, the information for home quarantine assessment would not be required at this stage, as persons traveling for tourism will be staying at hotels or resorts defined in a resilient corridor under a stay-in zone order. So what he's saying here, because you would have been coming to the island as a tourist, staying in a hotel or a resort that has been defined as a resilient corridor under a stay-in zone order. So for the hotels have what is called a stay-in zone order. So for that reason, it would not make any sense for you to complete the home quarantine assessment. Okay. At the same time, he informed the briefing that a travel authorization document is not required to book a flight to Jamaica. However, it is a requirement for check-in and boarding. And the airlines will not allow passengers to board without travel authorization. Let me say that again. He says, while you do not require it to book, the airlines will not allow passengers to board without the travel authorization. So as far as I am concerned, guys, and I'm going to give my commentary because it's so much information, I'm going to comment while I'm speaking, while I'm giving you the news, right? It makes no sense to book before you get your travel authorization, is the point, because it's necessary. If you need it to check in, right, and you can't board without it, why would you not get it before you book your flight? Make sense? Right. So you have your travel authorization certificate in your hand first before you make your booking, is the point, guys. Huh? Okay. So don't listen to any airlines. I don't care what anyone the airline want to tell you. This is what the Prime Minister has said. And so you are going to find yourself in problems if you do not adhere. Okay. And then you said XYZ. So I'm giving you information as it comes from the horse's mouth, guys. Okay. This is what the Prime Minister has said. So regardless of what the airlines will say, make sure you get your authorization certificate in your hand first before you book your flight. Okay. Continuing. You don't want to lose the money, All right. In the meantime, Mr. Owens reiterated that all persons arriving in Jamaica will be subjected to a health screening and risk assessment by the health authorities, which will include temperature checks, observation of symptoms, as well as an interview by a health officer. The health authorities will make a risk assessment based on information obtained through this health screening, as well as consideration of certain factors, including the country and city of origin, travel history, and the living conditions at the home where you intend to stay in Jamaica. That means they are going to go and assess, guys, your living conditions at the home where you intend to stay in Jamaica. Okay. This risk assessment will determine the testing and quarantine requirements, which means if they go and check your living conditions at your home and it is not suitable for you to be home quarantined, you are going to be quarantined in a government facility. Okay. He added that all persons will be required to go through a sensitization program that will advise them of the various infection prevention protocols within Jamaica, such as hand washing and sanitizing, the wearing of masks, social distancing, gathering restrictions, and curfew hours, among other things. So therefore, you're going to go to class. You got to be sensitized about these things, right? Okay. All right. So, um, I'm going to now give you, because questions were raised after the Prime Minister made that statement. At the press briefing on Friday, there were still persons who did not understand what the Prime Minister was saying. Apparently, they did not get it. So, in addition, and questions were raised also. What about those uh, non-nationals, as in, Jamaicans who became British citizens, American citizens, whatever, but they have family and friends in Jamaica, and they're coming. They're not tourists. They're not coming for business, but they're coming to visit their family and friends, or come to a funeral or wedding or whatever, right? So the Prime Minister issued a statement, and I'm going to read the statement for you guys. Okay, so listen to the statement that was issued on Saturday from the office of the Prime Minister. We have observed an uptick in queries by JAM COVID-19, social media, and other outlets seeking further information on non-nationals who are seeking to enter Jamaica to visit family and friends, or to attend funerals, weddings, and other events. Under the protocols already declared, it should be noted that returning Jamaican nationals and non-nationals who are resident in Jamaica are under special measures of either the stay at home for returning residents or the quarantine, depending on their risk assessment. As part of the risk-based management approach, the government of Jamaica emphasizes that unrestricted movement in Jamaica of persons coming from countries where there is active transmission poses a high risk of exposure for all persons in Jamaica. Therefore, during the period June 15th to 30th, non-nationals who are not business travelers or tourists proceeding to the COVID-19 resilient corridor will be tested. If the test is negative, persons will be placed in quarantine at their intended address or in a government facility as determined by the health authorities for a period of 14 days, that is 2 weeks. If the test is positive, persons will be isolated either at their intended address or in a government facility as determined by the health authorities. We encourage you to place all queries to the JAM COVID or the Visit Jamaica website for official responses. That is clear, guys, as clear as crystal. Yes. Okay, so just so you understand, you're you're going to go to a wedding, you go to a funeral, you're just coming to visit your daughter or your son or your grandchildren or whatever, and you're originally a Jamaican, but you're no longer Jamaican because now you have an American passport or British passport or a Swedish passport or a Canadian passport. You are going to be tested if you're coming from the US, Canada, Europe, South America. You're going to be tested, period. Okay? You're coming from an high risk area. And once you're tested, if you're negative, you're still going to be quarantined for 14 days. It's either going to happen at the place where you plan to stay or in a government facility. If you're positive, the same is true. You're going to be, there's a difference between being quarantined and being isolated. You understand that? And so if you're positive, you're going to be isolated. Right? Okay. I hope that is clear for all my friends, family, and visitors to this Omega Life program. Share it with your friends and family so they too can be informed. Okay, that's the latest from our government, from the government of Jamaica. Okay. All right, guys. Let me continue with giving you the news. So, sorry. So, in addition, continuing. A state of emergency has been announced by Prime Minister, the Honorable Andrew Holness, for the Kingston Central and the Kingston Western divisions. The announcement was made at a special press briefing held yesterday morning, that is Sunday morning, at Jamaica House. The curfew will be in effect for 14 days and started yesterday, Sunday, June 14, 2020. Members of the Constabulary and the Jamaica Defence Force, the JDF, have been deployed into the Kingston Western Division to help to keep citizens in those communities safe. The security forces will remain in these communities for the next 14 days as part of the SOE that was imposed yesterday. Meanwhile, according to the Commissioner of Police, Major General Anthony Anderson, as of June 12th, major crimes have declined by 14% overall. Robberies are down by 13%, break-ins down 23%, and larceny has declined by 32%. But what you never hear, guys, was the murder rate, the overall. Nobody gave you the details about the overall murder rate, but I'm here to give you, because I'm here to give you accurate information and not misinformation. I tell you, these persons. When I watch the news and when I listen to these persons speak, it just amazes me. Think on these things. No, it's only God Almighty can tell me what I must think on. And He said, I'm to think on whatever things are pure and lovely and of good report. Yeah. So I have to give you good report. Right? And so 5%, it has inched up by 0.5 from January to June 2019, in that same period, right? This year, we have 3 more murders. So last year, we had, up until June 6th, we had 580 June 6th, right? The murder rate has gone up. Okay. Yet, according to Dr. Chan, he was speaking, he said at the press briefing, he says inter-gang and intra-gang warfare has been the cause of the violence that is being experienced in the Kingston Central and the Kingston Western divisions. Nevertheless, Kingston Western has been under the ZOZO for 2.5 years. Remember the ZOZO, guys? That Zone of Special Operations that was implemented 2.5 years ago. Yes, Kingston Western has been under it. Nevertheless, they have recorded a 92% spike in murders. Kingston Central murder rate has gone up 47%. There are 48 gangs in Kingston Western and 32 gangs in Kingston Central. Yeah? Those are the numbers that they're not giving you. Dr. Tashang gave you some of it, but you don't see these being, advertised. And and the Major General did not talk about these things because we're told that, and they use St. James, according to them, as a model of the the fact that the SOE is working, according to them. You understand? Which it's not working at all. The SOE is just not working. Yeah, not working at all. And now the entire Kingston right now is under SOE, basically. Right. So what is kind of confusing is the time of the curfew, because according to what the Prime Minister was saying, that based on the state of emergency in these particular areas, the curfew hours will vary. And so we're not quite sure what the curfew hours are for them, but we know the national curfew has been adjusted in those hours to do your business and to get back home. Okay, if you're in Kingston, I'm not quite 100% sure, but I guess the Jamaica Constabulary will put that out, and as soon as I have that information for you, I will give it to you, right? But I usually go and I throw the JCF website to ensure that I get the latest information from the police, right? Again, I like my information from the horse's mouth. Primary source information is what I give you guys. Primary source information. Yeah. Okay. And okay, so now I must give you this one, guys, because it's very important that I give this one to you. I'm going to get back to the others, but I was supposed to give this to you yesterday. Didn't get a chance to give it to you, as I said. But it is very important for our information as citizens of this beautiful island of Jamaica that you have these kind of information. Yes, so The Data Protection Act 2020, which seeks to safeguard the privacy and personal information of Jamaicans, was passed in the Senate on Friday. The bill, which was approved without amendment in the lower house on May 19th, got the senators' green light with 3 amendments after a lengthy debate on both sides of the aisle. Meanwhile, opposition Senator Scott Motley, who was instrumental in the amendment of the act, is urging the government to, quote, begin to have conversations that are necessary to make sure that in our haste to become a digital society, we don't leave half the population behind. Leader of Government Business, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, in closing the debate on the bill, noted that a public education program will be undertaken during the 2-year transitional period before the legislation comes into effect. It is anticipated that during this transition period, it will be treated as an appropriate period for public education. So we'll pass the bill and educate people as we go through, so that people will understand the bill when it has come into effect, she said. When you look at the impact and the positive benefit that can come from the services and the protection that will be given by this bill, then we will get further and faster, and we'll have greater engagement and buy-in because we'll focus on the positive, she added. As outlined in Clause 76 of the bill, a transition period will be established to allow data controllers time to take the steps necessary to ensure full compliance with the legislation. The period will also facilitate other administrative processes. The Data Protection Bill provides guidelines on how personal data should be collected, processed, stored, used, and disclosed in physical or electronic form. It requires that data should only be obtained for special lawful purposes with the consent of the individual and not to be further used or processed in any way incompatible with the original purpose. The legislation also stipulates that the data collected must be accurate and, where necessary, kept up to date, must not be held for longer than is necessary for the original purpose, must be protected using appropriate technical and organizational measures, and be disposed of in accordance with the regulations. The bill further provides that data must not be transferred to a state or territory outside of Jamaica unless that state or territory ensures an adequate level of protection of the rights and freedoms of the individual from whom that data has been collected. Now, I was listening and watching the debate, and I'm telling you guys, like, okay, and this is what I like and I appreciate. Now, most persons in Jamaica, knowledge is power. Information that we get it. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We get so caught up in color in terms of PNP and JLP that we kind of miss the point and miss the fact that we have to have an opposition to a government in a democracy. You understand? The purpose of the opposition is to set up checks and balances to keep the government in check. You understand? It's very important. So when I see the PNP squabbling amongst themselves and getting distracted from what they're supposed to do, it bothers me. But I am glad to see that although they're having internal, rifts and, and all kind of things that are happening within their organization, in the Senate, when I watch the upper house, I'm really happy because I see that we are having constructive debates on both sides of the aisle. You understand? And the opposition, and they are actually doing their job, what they're supposed to do as the opposition. So this bill that was passed, guys, with these 3 amendments was as a result of the opposing views of the PNP in the House. And this lady, Donna Scott Motley, must be commended. Other PNP senators spoke, but she was the main speaker because she's the opposition leader for business in the Senate. And so, and she made some very good valid points. And I'm going to point to some of what she said, guys, because it is pertinent that we understand how important this Data Protection Act is. You understand? And how much we need to understand it. right? And one of the things that she pointed out is that we are trying to become a digital society. Unfortunately, it's hard for us to say we are going to be digital when we have so many persons who are having problems with internet. And it was pointed out, so before I tell you, because I'm going to go back to what the Honorable Minister Carlson would have said about the internet. But before I get to that, let me say what she said. So she said in her speech in the House, the Honorable House of the Senate, um, she does not want this to be us to be a society where only certain people can access the benefits, right? Or access the opportunities while some people get left behind. She says further that we already have a problem with the education system, right? The internet system. We have persons who are required to access the internet. However, they are unable to do so because they do not have available internet in their area. She says, we have not prepared our teachers properly or our students for this new age, this digital society that we're trying to get to, right? And sadly enough, there are many persons who are out of touch because they do not have access to the internet. She says, if we understand and appreciate the problem which we have as a country, then that will be a first step in applying a solution. She also said, all right, the Data Protection Act, had it been in place, it would have ensured that the information that was already collected during this COVID-19 and for our 8,000 plus Jamaican nationals who applied to return to the island, the information would have only been used for the purpose it was collected, and that any breach would have been severely punished. As of right now, because we did not have the act in place, then that is not being done. Now, here's the point: we do have the act now because the bill has been passed. But as she has rightly pointed, and for the public to bear in mind and to note that the first aspect in this setup is to have an information commission office. We have to have an information commission office under which this act will operate, right? That office, as it was brought out in the debate, that to set up that office will cost $1.7 billion to establish. $1.7 billion to establish. That is the reason there is this 2-year transition you hear me talk about just now. This 2-year transition period, because it costs $1.7 billion to set up just the Information Commission office alone, right? And that was not in this year's budget. So therefore, they are going to factor that out into the next budget. Now, part of the problem that we heard that came out in the debate is the fact that, okay, and this is what we know for a fact because it was said by the Honorable Minister Carl Famuda. 51% of users have totally unstable internet. 23% have almost non-existent internet, and only 26% of the entire island of users have stable or relatively stable internet. You heard that numbers, guys? The entire island, number of users who are using internet, whether they're using Flow or Digicel. Only 26%. That means 74% of users, guys, have either unstable internet or non-existent internet. So the question again is raised: how are you going to try to push this digital society that you're trying to implement when we have so many persons can't even access the internet? And as a result, many persons are getting left behind right now because many things that you have to do online, they can't do it because they don't have access to the internet. Yeah. So it goes to show, and we as a people, guys, we need to, impress upon the government. And when I was listening to the debate, I recognize that there was some agenda. And the agenda that I see happening is that persons, because as much as we claim, and it is almost like a foregone conclusion that the JLP will win again in the next election, I don't think that they are that 100% sure themselves that it will happen. You understand? Because they don't know, because the Jamaican population can be fickle, right? So they're not sure. So it seems to me what is happening, this is how I'm interpreting what the events that are unfolding right now, guys. It seems to me what's happening is that they are trying to ensure legacy. So they want to say, oh, we were the one who introduced the Data Protection Act. We were the one who passed it. You understand? I think that's what they want credit for it. Whereas any government who was in power at this point in time, they would have been the ones to have done it, because we are in an age, as it became clear during this COVID-19 pandemic, that we have had to have a Data Protection Act. It was necessary because our information is out there, and we don't know who is using it, and we don't know what they're using it for. You understand? All this information that is given out in this COVID-19 pandemic, it's just data. Big data is $1 billion business. You understand? And people take your information. I mean, Google does it, Facebook does it, all of these organizations, they do it. You understand? And they take your information. And that is why when you go online, they can tell you, before you even know what you want to do, they can tell you what you want to do. You understand? So it's a big thing, right? And here it is now. We are finding that, okay, so they run and pass the act. Thank God we got those 3 amendments. It was those 3 amendments. One of them was the fact that we had that transitional period of 2 years to implement this Data Act law that they have now passed, which we know we needed, but which we know under the circumstance, you understand, we can't necessarily use, because of the fact that we do not have the infrastructures that are supposed to be in place, right? Internet is lacking. And so what we want to see right now, we want to see our government take stock of the 2 ISP that we have, internet service providers that we have, and say, listen, as a matter of fact, don't even give them an opportunity to say, put up them socks, so to speak. What we want to see right now, we want to see the market open for more players to come on board, right? Either more players come on board to make it more competitive, so we can have better internet service, or we'd like to see the revamping of the telecommunications of Jamaica, right? On steroids. I mean, in terms of its infrastructure, not the customer service, because we want better customer service, but in terms of infrastructure, right? Bring back telecommunications of Jamaica and equip it properly, get proper personnel, human resources, right, to man, and so that we have good customer service, and let us have better internet service. Or you open up the market to other persons. But right now, digital and Flow, as far as I'm concerned, they have failed the people. They have even breached their contract, because as I understand it, they were supposed to provide services for 95% of the population. They were supposed to provide service for 95%. And as you heard me say just now, 74% of the population who are using internet service have unstable or no service at all. Only 26% have some kind of stable internet service. That is ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And it's time that we see things like that being addressed. Those are the things we want to see being addressed. You understand? Not purchasing $1 billion this and $1 million that and spending money frivolously. You understand? But these are the important things that you're supposed to spend the money on. These are what you must spend money on. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so I should have said this to you yesterday also, so I'm going to give this one to you again also, guys, because I didn't get to give it to you yesterday. So the Caribbean Community of Retired Persons, CCRP, they are calling for the introduction of an Elder Care and Protection Act, which it says would mirror the Child Care and Protection Act to ensure that the nation's seniors are legally protected from abuse. This comes in the run up to the 14th observance of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is being observed today. Today, June 15, is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So guys, yeah, as the day suggests, be aware that you have elders who are being abused, whether physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally, even financially. Yeah, it's a global issue that affects the health and human rights of the aging population. Elder abuse is a single or repeated act or lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship where there is an expectation of trust which causes harm or distress to an older person. The CCRP noted that currently the World Health Organization recognizing 5 types of elder abuse. These are physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, psychological abuse, and neglect. In Jamaica, where persons 60 years and older now constitute 11.3% of the population and are projected to constitute 25% by 2050, swift action must be taken to protect them, CCRP says. It argued that children of senior citizens who are able to financially support their parents are mandated by the Maintenance Act of December 7, 2005 to care for their parents. However, the group said many neglect this responsibility. Quote, 2 of the most common forms of elder abuse in Jamaica are financial abuse and neglect, abandonment. Many children refuse to financially care for their elderly parents, leaving many of them to depend on the help of strangers, or they try to trick or scam them out of their pension funds. Excuse me. Yeah. So that was a little thing that I really had to give that to you because guess what? That's another thing that I want to see being addressed in Jamaica in terms of okay, so I I have been I have been basically advocating for the Nursing Home Act to be amended. The other thing that we want to see in Parliament that they debate in Parliament, and pass these laws in Parliament for things like this, because we have a Nursing Home Registration Act, guys, that is old, and it was 1838 or something like that. That's how old the act is. You understand? And they have not amended it since. And we want to see it amended because under that previous under that act, all health facilities fall under that same act, including, for example, hospitals and assisted living facilities. Now, let us take assisted living facilities, for instance. An assisted living facility, guys, is a facility where seniors go, but they can help themselves. They're not bedridden, right? So they do not need, for example, a hospital bed, right? It's an assisted living facility. As the name suggests, you assist them with their living conditions, their daily activities, or the activities of daily living, their ADLs. That's what you do in an assisted living facility. According to the Nursing Home Registration Act, to set up a assisted living facility, it has to have a nursing a hospital bed. What are you doing with a hospital bed in an assisted living facility? And it's mandatory. So you see, the laws need to be amended and adjusted. You get me? And these are what we want to see, guys. You advocate for to your representatives. So that Minister, the Honorable Dr. Christopher Tufton, can go into Parliament and put forward, you understand me, these amendments. That's what we want to see. These are the kind of things we want to see happening. These are things that are going to help to create better infrastructure, to improve our health system, for example. You understand? The education system that is broken. You go in and you implement and make it mandatory for these internet service providers to provide internet access to the households so that your students can go online and do their homework. But you can't have a situation where 10 students are able to go online and to do the project successfully, while the other 90% are not able to do so because they have either poor internet access or no internet access at all. Nonsense. Yeah? Okay. In continuing with the news, guys, I have more information to give to you. Gotta give you this one. Okay, so So, speaking at a People's National Party PNP meeting held at the University of the West Indies, Mona, yesterday, opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips said there was a link between happenings at the St. Anne Municipal Corporation, which is now under investigation by the Integrity Commission, and the booting of two PNP councillors from the St. James Corporation. Senator Charles Sinclair, councillor for Montego Bay Northeast, moved the motion against Sylvan Reid, councillor for the Salt Spring Division, and Gladstone Bent, representative for Catadupo, citing their absences at the March, April, and May sittings. The action was taken pursuant to Section 31B of the Local Governance Act, which states, quote, if a person elected to the office of mayor or councillor is absent from 3 consecutive meetings of the council without the leave of council, that person shall thereupon become disqualified immediately and shall cease to hold the office. But Phillips felt that it was an abuse of power given the COVID-19 pandemic. Quote, the two events together tell a story. In St. James, the Jamaica Labour Party majority is abusing power to avoid oversight and accountability, which is to be provided by the minority. It is an abuse of power and dishonesty, Dr. Phillips charged. In St. Anne, he says there is also an abuse of power, but it's of a different form. It's a pattern which is also evident from the reports received from the KCMC, that is the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, where the internal audit committee that was set up under the previous administration is being dismantled. Dr. Phillips said the result in the end was shameful. It's a shameful misuse of public funds urgently needed by Jamaicans who are suffering under the pressure caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. An internal audit at the KCMC has unearthed irregularities spanning the period January 2017 to December 2019. Quote, stealing is bad at any time, but to steal from the people in a crisis represents the lowest depths of corruption that has ever been seen in this country. And continuing, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security is reminding employers that redundancy exercises implemented without properly notifying the minister result in prosecution. In a release, the minister said under the redundancy payment regulations, employers must notify the minister in writing within 21 days of the date the redundancy will take effect. It says employers who breach the regulations will be subject to a fine not exceeding $250,000 or a prison term of 3 months, or you could get both fine and imprisonment. The reminder comes as several sectors seek to implement measures to weather the economic recession caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The tourism industry has been worst affected to date, with thousands laid off as restrictions on travel and movement caused businesses in the sector to close their doors. The industry has projected earnings of $1.4 billion to $1.5 billion this year, far from the usual $4.4 billion expected prior to COVID-19. The industry is expecting to pick up some steam with the reopening of the country's borders to non-nationals today, June 15th. Okay. And I want to give you this other story, guys. Excuse me. Oh, by the way, I didn't get to tell you this yesterday because I was not on yesterday. If you were in Eastern Jamaica, did you feel that earthquake early Sunday morning? Yeah, there was a 3.7 earthquake early Sunday morning. Yeah. So, and it might be still news for some of you, but I know some of you it's going to be news for you. So let me give it to you. Yeah, a 3.7 earthquake was felt Sunday morning in the eastern part of the island. According to the earthquake unit at the UA, in a felt earthquake bulletin, the minor quake epicenter was located in the Blue Mountains, approximately 7 kilometers north of Penlyn Castle in St. Thomas. It was reportedly felt in Kingston and St. Andrew and as far as St. Catherine and Clarendon. Meanwhile, and I'm going to give this to you, segueing to some international news for you. A strong but deep 6.7 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of southwest Japan early Sunday, also, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS. But no tsunami warning was issued. There were no immediate reports of injury or damage caused by the earthquake, whose epicenter was 132 kilometers northwest of Nazi, Japan. The quake was relatively deep at 164 kilometers and struck at approximately 12:51 a.m., which basically I was struck at approximately 2:52 a.m. Yeah, so you see what was happening there, guys. You know, Japan is on the, like what they call that fire, ring of fire. There's a part of that ring of fire. Yeah. Japan's Kyodo News Agency reported that the earthquake was felt in Okinawa as well as the island of Kyushu. Japan sits on the Pacific, ring of fire, an arc of intense seismic activity that stretches through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific basin. Yeah. Oh, I want to give you this one. So, um, England. The dominoes may be an unusual way to get ready for cricket, but West Indies coach Phil Simmons believes the traditional Caribbean pastime will help his squad's morale ahead of their behind closed doors test series with England. The West Indies arrived in Manchester on Tuesday and will now spend several weeks at the Old Trafford ahead of the first test at Southampton starting on July 8th before returning to Lancashire's headquarters for the final two matches. The three-test series will mark the return of international cricket following the coronavirus shutdown. But with COVID-19 still very much a reality in Britain, where the virus has killed more than 40,000 people, players won't be able to go out and about as they would normally after training or a match day. Simmons, while acknowledging the seriousness of the pandemic, said the likes of West Indies captain Jason Holder would ensure the squad remained in a buoyant mood at a trying time. There's always dominoes. As you can imagine, if you've been to the Caribbean, it is a highly explosive form of entertainment, Simmons told a conference call on Saturday. Simmons himself, a former West Indies all-rounder, added that the biggest challenge is boredom, but saying that in this scenario, because of doing nothing, no cricket being played for the last however many months, that will take a while to come into play. The guys are hungry, they want to play, and they want to practice. The West Indies hold the Wisden Trophy after beating England in the Caribbean last year, but it's more than 3 decades since they last won a series on English soil. In Britain, the BBC are currently screening highlights of classic England-West Indies matches, most recently the 1984 Test at Lords, where Gordon Greenidge scored an unbeaten double century in a stunning win after home captain David Gower had set the tourists the then seemingly impossible task of scoring 342 in under a day. West Indies' era as the dominant force in world cricket has sometimes seemed a burden to present-day players in weaker sides, but Simmons hopes a proud history will help inspire older men. I saw the test at Lords, where Gordon scored a double century on the last day, he said. I'm not too sure how close some of the younger players are, but we are trying to bring that back. Get younger guys to understand where we've come from in terms of being top of the world for such a long time. Sometimes, when you know the whole West Indies saga is coming from, it gives you more impetus to be pushing forward to get the team back on top, he said. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be playing dominoes to while the time away, uh, preparing for the match in starting on July 8th. I'm gonna tell you guys, playing domino is good, it's very, very good to stimulate you. Yes, and also it's very relaxing, it can be. But let me tell you something, dominoes can also be, it can be devastating to your morale. It depends, you understand? Because, and I've seen it happen. If you're going through a bad patch, guys, don't play dominoes when you're going through a bad patch. Make sure when you're playing dominoes, you're upbeat, you're in a good mood, in good spirits, you understand? Because if you're playing dominoes when things are not going well with you, I'm telling you, it can make you depressed. Especially, I'm talking about when you get fixed love. Yeah, I remember, guys, for the first time in my life, because my dad will tell you I love to play dominoes, and as a very good domino player, my dad is a very, very good domino player. And if he says I am a good player, then you can take it to the bank, right? And I remembered one day I was playing dominoes and I got 15 love. And I'm telling you, seriously, first in my life of playing dominoes, I got 15 love. And that thing devastated me so much. You would not believe how depressed that it made me. Because especially when you're domino playing, you know you can play dominoes, and I've played dominoes. I've played back in the day, guys. I tell you, I played domino with my husband, and win beer, drink beer. Back in the day, I won beers. You understand, playing dominoes, and to come from that, and to be given 15 love, it can be devastating, especially when you're going through a bad patch, which I was at the time. You understand, and so make sure if you're playing dominoes, you're doing it when you are in a good mood, things are going well for you, you understand, and you're just not at a dark place. Because if you're at a dark place, it's going to take you even further into depression. Okay, so dominoes at its good, yes, it does have its good. It's very relaxing and it can be a great game. But if you're not at that place and you're at a dark place, it is not good, because getting fixed love is going to make you more depressed. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, I want to give you one more international story, guys. Actually, not one more. I want to give it two more international stories, and then I'm done. Yeah. So, let me give you this one. So now, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Excuse me. Oh, yeah. In England, guys, oh my God, it just it never seems to stop. The death toll keep rising in the UK, guys. Now they're up by 38. 38 persons have died in hospital. Um, so let me give you that. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? According to the NHS England, a further 28 persons have died in hospitals, while there were 4 fatalities in Wales. No new deaths were recorded in Scotland or Northern Ireland as of Monday, today, the 15th of June. The Department of Health and Social Care said deaths had increased by 38 since Sunday. That brings the death toll from the coronavirus now to 41,736. Can you believe it, guys? Yeah, the statistics coming out of England. Yeah. And then last but not least, I must give you this one also. So you know, I have to give you all the international story because I'm a woman without borders, right? Without borders. All right. So, according to Guyana's President David Granger, there is no reason for Keith Lowenfield, the Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Elections Commission (GECOM), to resign, as uncertainty continues over the outcome of the country's March 2nd elections. Granger made the comment while speaking to reporters yesterday, Sunday, June 15th. I think under the circumstances, he did what he was empowered to do under the law, what he is capable to do with the resources, Granger explained, pointing out that Lowenfield is not in control of the courts and could not accelerate the process. He recounted writing to the then chairperson of GECOM, retired Justice James Patterson, calling him to hold the election at the earliest credible time. These have been the real factors that have delayed the elections, and I believe that when Justice Singh got there in July 2019, she did what was feasible to have elections in the earliest possible time. Because of the groundwork which had been laid by Mr. Lowenfield and the other officials in the Election Commission in the Secretariat, we were able to have the elections on March 2nd. He reiterated that the March 2nd general and regional elections were possible because of Lowenfield and GECOM staff, reminding that it was agreed by all parties that March 2nd was the earliest possible date to hold the elections. The president made clear that Mr. Lowenfield is not to be blamed for that. I wouldn't ask for his resignation, and I wouldn't even expect him to offer it. Okay, so we are still awaiting the issues that are happening in Guyana. We're still awaiting the outcome for that election. And as soon as I have that information, I will basically give that information to you. Just to tell you about the other side of that story, or the side of that coin. According to the coalition, and the coalition I'm referring to is the APNU plus the AFC, there are close to 8,000 instances of fraud affecting 1,000 222 of the 2,339 ballot boxes from the March 2nd election. The coalition also said a total of 257 of the 173 votes were affected. Excuse me. So of course, this case is going to court, and we're waiting for that. As I said, the results, and I will have the results for you as to what is going on with that debacle of that that Guyanese election. Yeah, that is my international news for you for today. All right, guys. Oh, and I should get back to one more thing I want to give you before I end the program today. One last thing I want to tell you is this. Oh, I want to give you this. I want to give you this, guys. I want to give this to you to close out. So I'm back into local. I've been going international. We're back local. Yeah. So let me give you some dates. Let me give you some guidelines. Some guidelines I'm going to give you. All right. So some guidelines for you guys. Gyms, rivers, for river rafting people, right? Zoos and theme parks, as you know, right? Those have been opened, and those that came out in a press release on Friday. So James River rafting, zoos, theme parks reopened as of Sunday yesterday. Protocols that are being established include, of course, as you know, social distancing, right? And practicing infection control measures. Sanitation measures must be observed, right? As I told you just now, the curfew now has been extended or revised from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. until June 30th. The beaches have been opened again, reopened from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay. Of course, they must have no more than 10 persons together in any one area on the beach. Okay. And only swimming and jogging are permitted. No football, no beach volleyball, no other games or parties or dining is allowed on the beach. They are open from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. But no river parties or rafting are permitted. Only those rafting that have been established at the Martha Brae and the Rio Grande, as I mentioned, only those basically are approved. Weddings, you can have weddings up to 50 persons maximum, at the wedding, right? And that must also include the person who is conducting the ceremony. Of course, they must practice physical distancing. Funerals, the same thing for funerals. Up to 50 persons can now go to the funeral, up to 50 persons, right? At the burial site, only 15 persons, 10 of them must be mourners, right? So the people who are laying the casket and so on and so forth make up the 15. So 10 mourners, and the other 5 persons will be persons who are helping to bury your loved one. Gatherings, of course, must not exceed 10 persons as usual until June 30. It does not change, and maintain your 6 feet apart distancing. Okay, and remember, markets are still open from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and they are closed on Sundays. Barbershops and hair salons, that their restrictions have also been extended until June 30th. No more than 10 persons are supposed to be allowed in any one area at any one point place at a point in time, and no more than 2 must be waiting to have their hair cut or to have their hair been done. Okay, I practice all the other measures, infection control measures. Those are your latest. And guys, remember when I tell you when you go outside, ensure that you're wearing your mask and do it responsibly. Okay, and ensure that you're not wearing it for more than a couple of hours, really 4 hours at max. You're supposed to wear that mask. Okay, all right. So guys, I've come to the end of my program. I hope you found this information useful. Let me see the thumbs up, man. I'm not seeing your thumbs up. Let me see your thumbs up if you're enjoying the program. Let me see your thumbs up. Okay, thank you so very much for watching. I tried to give you the information so that you can make informed decisions. You understand? That's why I'm here, to help us to make informed decisions. As a fellow student of knowledge, right? I don't know everything, but whatever I know, I share with you, because knowledge is nothing if it's kept to myself. Knowledge must be shared. It must be applied, okay? And so I share it with you. And even if I share it with you now, you go and you share it with your friends and family. Share the link with your friends and family so that they too can watch and be informed, right? Okay. Okay. So we had a little break in transmission. It wasn't a big thing. Yeah. If I had started over from scratch, I would never have to do a playlist, but I'll do the playlist anyway because I want to add that first 3 minutes before when I started the program before it broke. Okay, never a dull moment around here, right? Absolutely. All right, guys. So until I see you tomorrow again at noon, 12 p.m., midday. Yeah, God willing, of course. This is JJ, Woman Without Borders, saying stay blessed and be a blessing. Love you. Bye.